name's Brian. I'm an alcoholic. And I was not really nervous until right now. First, I want to thank you, Cody, for asking me to do this. It really is a privilege and an honor to do anything for Alcoholics Anonymous. This program has saved my life, and I mean that with all my heart. I don't know where I'd be right now if it wasn't for you guys in Alcoholics Anonymous, this program that was laid out before me. A little bit of house cleaning. My sobriety date is May the 27th of 2015. I got a home group. It's the primary purpose group in Southern Pines. Most of y'all know when and where we meet, but if you're not from around here, we meet on Monday nights at 7 o'clock and Thursday nights at 7 o'clock for a speaker meeting. And that's at the First Baptist Church in downtown Southern Pines. And I'm grateful to be a part of that home group. There's a lot of service work being done there by those guys. And, there's a lot of outreach going on outside Alcoholics Anonymous. Is a big part of my recovery. And, like I was saying earlier, man, I was really beat down and broken when I came in here. It's a really cool deal to be up here. You know what I mean? My mom, my dad, and my little sister. She's gonna be here, I think. I don't know. She said she's gonna be late or something. Whatever. But they're here tonight. And I can't. When I was out there doing that thing before I came in here this time, they didn't really want a big part of play a big role in my life. A lot of broken promises, a lot of damage done to that relationship by my selfishness and my self-centeredness, and just wanting to feel good all the time. Like I needed to do whatever it was that I could do to make myself feel comfortable and feel all right. Because for as long as I can remember, that was a problem for me. If I was sober, it wasn't okay. I didn't feel all right. I wasn't comfortable. I couldn't be around people. I couldn't express myself. I couldn't feel connected to others. I felt less than all the time. Like there was something that people around me had that I couldn't get a grip on. And it's taken some time in this program, really delving into me, who I am as a person, to understand that and look back on that experience and know that that's how I felt. I started using alcohol at an early age. And so a lot of feelings that I had back then I didn't really recognize, but I get to feel them today sober. And I get to walk through those feelings and not run away from them or shut them out. And, it reminds me of stuff that happened to me when I was a child. I remember, I grew up with my mom and my dad were married when I was born, and great parents. My mom loved me probably a little bit more than she should have. She enabled the hell out of me later on in life, but they both loved me, and they both gave me the care and attention that any child could want or need, and what was going on was, my dad's over here, he's sober through the program Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm grateful for that. I get to share a relationship with him today because of this program, right? But he was suffering from his own alcoholism when I was young, and I was privy to a lot of arguments, a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling, a lot of holes being punched in walls, and I didn't understand what was going on. And that was a lot of what I saw, a lot of what I remember as a kid, is seeing that kind of stuff. And but for the most part, when I was young, 4, 5, 6, 7, he was there. He was my dad was my baseball coach. He was there for me, and he was a father. And my mom did everything she could for me. She gave me everything I could ever want. I was spoiled, is what it was. And, from that, being raised like that, I learned how to manipulate really easily from a young age. I wouldn't get what I wanted, and I would kick, and I would scream, and I'd eventually get what I wanted. And, I learned how to do that, and I learned it very well. And, I remember the first time I lied when I was a little kid, and I remember getting away with that and, learning, the most important lesson that I ever learned in my life was that if I do something wrong and I lie about it and I don't get caught, I'm okay. I get away with that. I figured that stuff out when I was real young. All right, so, and like I said, I remember going into elementary school or pre-kindergarten, stuff like that, and my mom would drop me off, and I was that little kid that would hide behind my mom, and they told me how shy I was and how they thought it might be a problem. I was extremely shy as a little kid. I didn't want to be around people that I didn't know, and that was it was so intense that like I'd be around my own family, like extended family, like grandparents and aunts and uncles, and I wasn't comfortable around them. You know, my mom and my dad would drop me off at my grandparents' house to go do some stuff, and I didn't want to be there because I didn't feel comfortable around them. I didn't, like, it was, and I just wanted to get away. I had to get out. If I wasn't comfortable, I had to go. And, you know, that's how I remember being little. You know, unless I was, unless I was on a baseball field with those guys on the ball field, like, I didn't feel comfortable. That was the most a part of that I've ever felt up until coming into Alcoholics Anonymous was playing baseball. I love baseball. It was a passion of mine. And I was pretty good at it. And, you know, like I said, my dad was my coach, and that's what I did, man. Like, I played baseball, and I went to school, and I didn't really like that. I remember, you know, funny story. I'm going to be all over the place, y'all, just a forewarning. I can't keep a straight thought. But, you know, so when I was about 9 months sober, I went up to Washington, D.C. with my girlfriend to go. It's her hometown, and they got a really big AA fellowship up there. And I remember going there and going to one of the meetings, and I've been calling my sponsor. Like, the whole time I was there, like, these people are, like, not welcoming me. They are not appreciating who I am and, like, that I might be a newcomer or something like that. Like, they need to reach out to me more. I was pretty pissed about it. And I was full of fear of what they thought of me. And, you know, it reminded me of when I was a little kid. You know, I remember being out at elementary school, and I had to go take the bus to my granddad's house, and I didn't know what bus to get on. And instead of being, like, logical about the situation, like, I got really scared and didn't ask anybody what to do, and just, like, stood over there and cried because I didn't know where to go, and I got extremely frightened. You know, and that's the way I am, you know what I mean? Like, I get scared, and people, like, scare the hell out of me, and then I just don't say nothing, and I'll walk away. And that's how it was when I was in D.C. I stood in a corner of a room and watched everybody have a good time, knowing for, like, 100% sure in my mind that they weren't going to accept me if I walked up to their circle. You know what I mean? Like, fear just drives me. It takes control of me, and you know, as a like, what had happened was, like, you know, I grew up a little bit, and my mom and my dad separated, and you know, I didn't know what was going on. They made sure that I knew it wasn't my fault, but I ended up going to do the whole every other weekend thing at my dad's house, and his house was kind of a free-for-all. And we did whatever the hell we wanted to over there. And, you know, my mom was a little bit stricter, but, you know, I was really good at manipulating. I could get anything I wanted out of her, too. So, you know, it was around that time, I was probably 12 years old, that I took my first drink of alcohol. And I was over at a buddy's house. I remember it perfectly. I was over at my friends, and we bought a 12-pack of beer. And the plan was that he'd drink 6 and I'd drink 6. And, you know, we both did. And I remember getting about the third one down. It was nasty as hell. I remember having to eat Doritos like the whole time I was drinking this stuff so I could get rid of the taste. And I remember getting about the third one down, and all that fear and anxiety that I'd been experiencing just completely went away. Like, all of it. I found my solution. Like, I didn't know what was going on at the time, but looking back on it, dude, I found, like, the fix to my life. Like, that was what it was going to be. And you know, I hear people talk about they make a decision, like, after they drink like that, like, I'm going to do this as often as possible. And, like, I didn't have to make that decision. Like, as soon as I felt that feeling, like, it was like the decision was already made, and, like, it was just going to happen. Like, you would have had to lock me up for the rest of my life for me to not go pursue that again. And, you know, I'll go ahead and get this out of the way now. You know, drugs are part of my story. This is Alcoholics Anonymous, and I know that, and I identify as an alcoholic because I know about the disease, and I know how I'm afflicted with that disease, but drugs are a part of my story, and I'm going to share on that a little bit. You know, I hope I don't offend anybody, but if I do, I'm sorry. This is just my story. You know, I experienced the same feeling when I did I tried marijuana very shortly after that, and did the same exact thing for me. It fixed me. I didn't have to be scared. I was finally okay around people. You know, I could finally interact with the people who were around me and not feel like they were constantly judging me, or not feeling like I could fit in with them. You know, alcohol and other substances just made me a part. It made me feel like I belonged. You know, and it did everything for me that I saw that what other people had. Other people had this way to, like, get friends and, like, make friends and not feel different. And I always felt different. I always felt like there was going to be some kind of outside solution to fix me. And before I even drank and took drugs, I remember for some reason, like, I was in elementary school. I couldn't have been older than 8 or 9 years old. And I'm praying in my bed at night for God to please bring me a girlfriend. Because I knew that if I could get a girlfriend, if people could see me with a girlfriend, that I'd be okay. Like, I don't know why that I had that thought. I don't know where I even learned that from. But I knew if I could get that, like, I would be all right. It would make me better. I was always seeking some kind of outside solution for what was wrong with me or what I thought was wrong with me. Right, so I'm 12 and I'm just now getting into the drugs and the other stuff or the alcohol and the other stuff, and I'm making that somewhat of a priority in my life. Obviously, being that age, I can't do it all the time. I can't do it every day, but I'm doing it as often as I possibly can. And I remember every time that I did it, I had a blast. Like, alcohol and other things just it played a very important role in my teenage years. It was great for me. You know what I mean? I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but it was amazing for what it did for me, and I had a lot of fun with it for a while. All those feelings that I said it made me feel, it just fixed my life. And slowly, like, other things that were important to me began to be not so important to me. I came into high school, and school was always pretty important to me. You know what I mean? I wanted to make good grades. I wanted to go somewhere and do something with my life. And I'm coming into high school, and bigger environment, more people doing other stuff. And things that were once important to me are not so important to me anymore. Like 9th grade and 10th grade weren't that bad. I'm still going to school every day. I'm getting in trouble some on the weekends here and there, like lying to my mom and not telling her where I'm going, and having to manipulate situations to get where I need to go so I could get drunk. And I never really thought about the consequences. Consequences never were a big deal to me. It was just, how can Brian feel better today? So right now it's just like a weekend thing. 9th and 10th grade, it's all on the weekends. I'm just trying to get through this week so I can get to the weekend. And, I remember going to school, and we had this really big courtyard there, and I would stand off to the side by myself and just try and pick out a group of people to go stand with. Because, I was pretty much friends with all of them. I could fit into any of those groups if I wanted to. But it was plucking up the courage enough to go stand with the group first that was the problem. I had to really psych myself up and get ready to go talk to these people, because I wasn't sure what was going to happen, or if they were going to like me, or if they were going to tell me to go away or what. And so I get through those 2 years of school, and everything's going well, and grades are still pretty good. I haven't really started slacking off, and come 15, I'm driver's ed, like getting the license deal. And when the day I turned 16, I got my license, and I experienced that freedom. And the first thing I did was go and pick up a buddy of mine, and we went and got some stuff, and we went and had some fun, right? And that next year at school, like, things just kind of started gradually going downhill. I had this new freedom, having a car. I think I just got my first job, and so I have money in my pocket. I got transportation. I'm not having to pay any bills or anything like that. I'm living in my mom's house. And, I kind of left this out of my story, but by this time, my dad had his alcoholism had progressed, and he had by this time he had broken every promise in the book to me. He had missed baseball tournaments, he had missed birthdays, he had missed anything that, like, a child could think was important, he pretty much missed. And I know today that he was doing the best he could. Just like I was doing the best I could when I was out there with what I had. But as a result of him doing that, I had a very, very large resentment towards him. And I didn't like the guy at all. I could care less about what he did, and I would get calls from him every now and then, like, asking me to come bail him out of jail. And I don't know if he was just too drunk to realize it, or if he didn't know, but, like, you got to be 18 to bail somebody out of jail. And I was only 16, 17 years old, And stuff like that was happening with him on a regular basis, and I just didn't like the dude. But here I am over here just kind of following, like, right in his footsteps. And this whole time I'm like, I'm never going to be like him. And my mom's noticing me doing this type of stuff. Like, I'm lying a little bit more. I'm not doing the things I'm supposed to be doing, like, grades are going down in school. Like, I'm getting drunk, I'm getting high before baseball practice. stuff like that. Stuff that was really important to me is just kind of sliding off, and the alcohol and other stuff is taking a very important role in my life, and right, like I'm not doing very well in school. My mom's noticing these things that I'm doing. I'm lying constantly, but things aren't bad they aren't getting bad yet. Everything's still pretty manageable, but I'm suffering like little consequences the whole time. Like my mom's the type of mom where she likes to keep tabs on me. She's a little controlling, but she would email my teachers, and I'm skipping school like 3, 4, 5 times a week, different classes, and she's emailing all my teachers and asking them how I'm doing, and like and my teachers are emailing her back like, well, Brian hasn't been in school Tuesday or Thursday or Friday, and he says he's been sick, and she's like, well, he hasn't been sick, he's supposed to have been there, and then I get in trouble for that, and so I get some kind of consequence, and I make it through that, and I just do the same thing the next week. You know what I mean? Like it does. Like those things don't matter to me. You know what I mean? The only thing that matters to me is how can I make myself feel good, because I can't function sober. I can't be around people sober. I just can't do it. And the whole time I'm just trying. I'd end up at school with like the intention on going to school, and I'd meet somebody in the parking lot before school or before a class, and they'd say, "Hey, you want to go have some fun over here?" And I'd be like, "Well, hell yeah, let's go." You know what I mean? There's no second thought about like what's going to happen and how this is going to affect what I'm doing. I just roll with it. Somebody puts a thought in my head or a thought comes to my head and I'm gone, I'm out. And that's how it was. And by this time, like 16, 17 years old, baseball is just, I'm really resentful at my coaches because I don't think they're treating me right, because like they're not giving me the playing time I deserve. And what I know now is like I wasn't putting in what I was supposed to be doing. I wasn't participating in practice like I was supposed to be. I wasn't making those early morning practices. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted all this credit for all this stuff that I wasn't doing. It's like, why are y'all treating me so bad? I'm always a victim. And, so it's going to be about time for me to graduate, and I'm barely scraping through school. Like, I don't really know how I graduated with all the classes that I was missing, but everybody else that's around me is kind of worried about like where they're going to go to college at, and they're applying to schools, and I'm not applying anywhere. I'm just worried about what I'm doing after school or what's happening this weekend. And I managed to graduate, surprisingly. I don't know how it happened, but I graduated, and I decided that I was going to take I don't know if I decided I was going to take a year off or what, but I ended up going to the local community college around here, Sandhills, for about a month, until I just stopped going altogether. It got old for me real fast, and I just quit going. And I was friends from high school had went there, and we're off partying, doing our thing. And by this time, I'm drinking pretty regularly throughout the week. I got a job at a restaurant in town where that stuff is very acceptable. Like everybody that I'm working with is doing it, and that's what I want to do anyway. So I just fell right in with that crowd, and what happened next is really important in my story. Like I'm definitely, by this time, like looking back on it, I'm drinking alcohol alcoholically. You know what I mean? Like I'm getting thoughts, and I'm acting directly on those thoughts, and things are happening. Like I'm blacking out. Like I can't control how much I drink when I start drinking, and I'm not really paying attention to it. It's actually just funny to me. The first time that happened, I think I was 15 years old, and these people gave me free reign to a bottle of, a half gallon of Southern Comfort, like 100 proof liquor. And I remember the last thing I saw was the clock being 11:27, and I thought I just fell asleep. But I woke up in a different house, wearing different clothes, and like didn't know where the hell I was. And I walked outside, and it turned out to be the guest house of the place that I was staying at. And I walked over there, and I felt like really good still. And I didn't understand. I heard people talk about hangovers and stuff, and I felt amazing. I went over there, and I talked to them, and I was like, they just proceeded to tell me all these stupid things that I did. I threw up on a very nice, like, $5,000 shag carpet, all this red stuff, and it was a wonderful time. I think I told I won't say that, but I had a great time, and I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know what a blackout was at that point, but I just know that I lost control of my drinking. I started drinking. It was just back to back to back. I couldn't put it down after I started drinking. And stuff like that was happening more and more often. Now I'm like 18 years old and I'm drinking all the time. And, the year that I was 18, I got 3 underage drinking tickets, like in quick succession, all in that same year. And, I'm put on probation and like things like I got to go see this probation officer and I can't stop myself. Like I said, I've been smoking weed constantly too, and I can't stop myself from smoking weed on time to go see this probation officer to pass a piss test. Like I know when I got to go see him is scheduled. Like all I got to do is stop 2 weeks beforehand, and I'll be okay. It'll be out of my system. I'll be good. And I'll make that decision every month. I would make that decision to stop, and every month I would rationalize some way, somehow, how I was going to pass this piss test this time, and it never did. I always failed. Thank God he never violated me. I don't know why he never did, but I probably failed about 3 for him. He never violated me, and it was around that time that I was introduced to opiates. They played a really big part in my life. It's what it's what really brought me to my knees. But I remember like very vividly the first time I did it, and it was the same feeling that alcohol gave me. You know what I mean? The feeling of being able to fit in, and I can't drink all the time. I know I can't do that. Like there's nothing more I'd like to do than just get drunk all day every day, but I can't function like that. These things that I'm doing now allow me to function and go into work and be present at my place of work, be present at home and stuff like that, but not be present at the same time, if that makes any sense. I didn't have to get to the place that I had to get when I was drinking. I could do that stuff and function. Because when I start drinking, I don't function. Like I just black out and everything goes to hell like really quick. And all right, so I'm doing that, and I'm doing things that alcohol never made me do. You know what I mean? Like I always could scrape up enough cash and do that kind of stuff to get what I needed when it came to alcohol. But these other things weren't like that. I needed a lot more money, and I needed a lot more things to do that. And I'm doing things that I never wanted to do that I told myself I never would do. I'm stealing from my mom, stealing from my sister, and just really just being a bad person. And as a result of that, I got kicked out of my mom's house like several times, back to back to back. And I remember waking up one morning. I was 19, and my mom's sitting on the edge of my bed, and she's like, "Well, how do you feel about going to treatment?" And we had talked about this. I've been seeing a therapist, and I'd always shunned the idea, like, "Well, you trying to send me off or something like that?" And whatever. And this time I was just kind of like, you know what, all right, I'll go. And so we packed my bags. We got me a bed date, and I went down to Wilmington Treatment Center. And, I really don't remember a whole lot about that treatment center. I just remember that talking to a guy in there and how the drugs were really my problem. I wasn't willing to admit that I was an alcoholic. And I just had to quit doing those other things, and I could still drink and do that, and everything would be okay. And I remember him telling me I should hit a meeting my first day out, that was going to do something for me. I don't remember what they said it would do, but I did that. I got out, and my friends picked me up, and I went to a meeting that night, and the next day I'm drinking, and I stayed down in Wilmington for about 9 months, and I drank every single day. I got fired from 2 jobs as a result of that. Like I got fired from being a lifeguard because I fell asleep on the stand because I was hungover from the night before, and they don't like you to do that. And then I got fired from another job because I was drinking on the job. I was like 19 or 20 years old, and I'm in there drinking while I'm supposed to be working, and it's a bar. They could lose their liquor license and stuff, and they're like, "Well, you're fired." And so now I'm just sleeping on my buddy's couch. I got kicked out of the first people I moved in with because I don't know if I stole something from them or what, but they kicked me out. And I moved in with my other buddy, and me and him he's older than me. He's got the 21-year-old license. He can buy me alcohol, and we just got drunk all the time. My mom sent us a $200 check every month, and we just drank it up the whole time. I don't really remember a whole lot of time that I was sober, that little stint in Wilmington. I just drank constantly. And I couldn't stop. I don't know if I ever really wanted to, but I just know that every day when I woke up, it was just the thought was on my mind, like, how am I going to get drunk today? You know, and I couldn't really shake that thought. It was just, what am I going to do? Like, where are we going to get the alcohol? Like, how am I going to get drunk today? And that's what I did. And finally, he got fed up with me, and we got in a fight one night, and he was just like, dude, you got to get the hell out of here. And, you know, I come back home, and my dad lines up this job for me, like doing construction work, making pretty good money. And within a week, you get my first paycheck, I'm back to doing the hard stuff. And all that same stuff is happening again. And about a year goes by me doing that. About eight months maybe me doing that, and things are getting really bad again, and I'm doing things that I said I would never do, and just it was just a replay of a year and a half ago. And you know, this time it's getting bad, and I really want to stop doing what I'm doing. And I met this girl, and she made me want to stop because I needed to get right with her, because I don't know. And so I stopped doing the really hard stuff, but like I said, y'all, like, I can't function when I'm sober, so like I got to be doing something else. So I start drinking real hard again, and I'm going to bars every night, and I'm drinking on the job, and all this stuff's happening, and I ended up getting a DUI, and you know, I got this DUI, and it's a funny story, man. I wrecked my car on the side of the road, like less than a mile from my house. And, you know, I walked back and forth to my house a good 3 or 4 times trying to get materials and items that I needed to dig my car out of this little ditch. And my sister came up there. I tried to push my car out of the ditch with her car. That didn't work. And I'm about 4 hours into me trying to dig my car out of this. It's about 3 or 4 in the morning, and I'm like sweaty, dirty from head to toe. And I see this car coming around the corner, and I run out there. I'm like, stop, help. And it was the cops. And they proceeded to search my car. And what I didn't know, I blacked out on my way home, is I'd stopped and I bought some weed. And the cop brought me over here, and he's like, well, can you please empty your pockets under the hood of the car? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I took everything out, and I just dropped it on the car, and there's a bag of weed sitting there that I didn't even know was in my pocket. And so I got charged with that, and he took me to jail. And my dad came and got me from jail the next day, and we're talking about what we should do to fix this. And the idea comes about that, you know, maybe we should go back to treatment. You know, look good for court. Like, I got this other little habit that I'm dealing with. 2 birds, 1 stone. I'll go back to treatment, get that dealt with, and whatever. And, you know, like I said, things have gotten pretty bad from at this point. And so I go to this treatment center, same treatment center. Guys and girls in there. A lot of distractions. And but I was pretty hurt this time, you know. My life had gotten pretty bad, and I'm participating more in group. I'm telling my counselor more stuff. I'm trying more to, like, interact with these people in here and not just talk about how much fun drinking and using was, and, you know, like we do when we're in treatment, telling all the war stories, you know. And they gave me I stayed there 19 days, and on my last day there, I found out that I was patient of the week. Because, boy, did I feel so good about that. Like, I felt like I was on top of the world, y'all. Like, they gave me the award for being the best fuck up in the treatment center. And it was awesome. And it blew up my ego. And they discharged me because my insurance wouldn't take me. And my insurance wouldn't pay anymore. And I come home, and I'd already, when I was in the treatment center, I lined up to go to this Oxford house that I was going to stay in Wilmington. And, you know, I talked to those guys. I was in there, and everything was going to be good. I was going to come home, get some stuff, and then go back to Wilmington. And so I come home, and, you know, I'm doing what we do, and I want to go see my old friends and show them how good I'm doing. And I go see them, and, you know, they're doing some stuff there, and I see it, and I almost did it with them. My cousin was there, and he stopped me from doing it. But I know the whole rest of that day, I had that thought in my head, like, I got to get that. I got to get some. You know, and I couldn't shake it. And it went to the point where I managed to get $20 out of my mom, and you know, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I don't know what, you know, I know what it is now, but, like, I could not stop thinking about getting some. You know, like, I had to. And it was all that I could, like, you know, I was screwed, and I didn't know it, but I was screwed, and I had to, and I ended up doing it, and I go back to Wilmington. They piss test me, I get kicked out of there. I'm almost homeless. She was about to drop me off at the homeless shelter. I ended up getting to this other halfway house, And they let me in. I told them what had happened, and I had to stay there, and I had to terms and conditions this halfway house. I got to go to a lot of meetings, and I did, and I got introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous and to the Fellowship Alcoholics Anonymous, who I got introduced to. I got a sponsor, and I talked to him, and we kind of started reading in the book, and I kind of started praying, and my life kind of started getting better. But I'm sober right now, right? And they had a really big fellowship up there, which is what kept me sober. I was able to interact. There was a lot of people all the time. I could be around somebody constantly. You know what I mean? And that's what I needed. If I was going to stay sober, I needed to have supervision. I needed to be preoccupied 24/7. And what I found out was that if I don't find a solution in Alcoholics Anonymous, I'll find a solution somewhere else. And I did. I found a solution in women. I was running around the rooms of NA and AA and just trying to get a new girlfriend here, a new girlfriend there, new girlfriend here, and I made that my solution. And it worked for me for a little bit. It didn't work for a long time. Before I knew it, I was working at this place, and those guys did their thing, and they invited me out with them one time, and I went, and I was drunk, And I remember that first night that I went to a party with those guys, I blacked out. It just happened real quick, and I moved out of my halfway house, moved in with somebody else, and it was just, and it just started that thing all over again. But it's progressive, right? And now things are happening where I don't want to go drink some nights. Some nights I'm making conscious decisions to stay at home so I can get up and go to work, and I'm going out. And now every time I go out, I'm blacking out. And I didn't understand this. I wake up at my house the next morning every day wondering how I got that drunk. How did I manage to black out? I didn't want to do it. I was trying to limit the amount of drinks that I was taking. I was trying to have fun, to get to that little 6 to 10 beer minimum and enjoy myself and enjoy my night. And I always overshot the mark. I was always going way too far, and things were just, and I got back to doing what I like to do. I like to drink. That other stuff it has a pull on me that I don't understand. And I started doing that stuff again, and I got kicked out of that first house. I got kicked out of the second house that I moved into. I got kicked out of the third house that I moved into, and then I got kicked out of the fourth house that I moved into. And this whole time that I'm getting kicked out of these houses, man, my life is just deteriorating in front of me, and my emotional state is just worse than it's ever been. I'm extremely lonely. I can go to work and I feel alone. When I'm at home, I feel alone. When I'm at a party with friends, I feel alone, and I'm miserable. I hated what my life was, and I couldn't feel connected to anybody around me. I couldn't talk to people. I didn't feel like anybody was on the same level that I was, and nobody understood me, and I didn't know what to do, and I was just sad and lonely and depressed, and I don't think I wanted to be here anymore. I wanted to get out, and then I was too coward to kill myself. I wasn't going to do that. And I finally I made the phone call to my mom, which is who I always call when I get in trouble. And I remember battling with myself that morning that I was about to make that phone call. It was at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm at work, and I had this voice in my head saying don't call. We'll be able to just wait 2 more weeks. Just wait. If it's still bad in 2 weeks, we'll make the call. But for now, just wait. You know what I mean? And I couldn't wait anymore. I couldn't. And I made the call, and by this time my dad had gotten sober through this program, and my mom didn't know what to do. She thought I was up in Wilmington doing all right. You know what I mean? She thought everything was okay, and it wasn't, and she didn't know what to do with me. And so she calls my dad, and it's like the dude was waiting on this shit to happen. He knew what was going on. It was awesome how that happened, because I was calling him and I'd ask him for money here and there and make up some bullshit lie. And he'd be like, yeah. The dude, he let me hit my bottom. He never tried to get in there and tell me what to do or anything like that. He just let me run my life into the ground. It was the best thing he could have done for me. And he was there when I needed him. And because of this program, he was there. And he had been through the colony up there, which is where I went to treatment, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if I wanted this. I knew I wanted to change. I didn't know if this is what I wanted, but I knew I wanted something different. And I'd hear those guys up there like Mark and Pat and Harold and Robert. And, Harold and Robert had this piece about them that I just really wanted. Like some guys in this room tonight, they just have something about them that I really wanted. This is just my first experience with it. And Mark and Pat would say stuff that, like, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I knew they'd been where I'd been. And, I knew I could take their word for what it was. And I identified with those guys. It's something I'd never done before. I'd been to AA and NA, and, I could see how y'all were where I was and stuff like that, but I didn't want what they had, down there. You know what I mean? I don't know if I just wasn't ready or what. But, I think I was ready that time, and they were saying these things, and I just wanted it, and I started doing what they told me to do, no matter how stupid I thought it was. No matter how dumb or whatever I thought what I was doing was, I was just doing it. They were telling me to do these things, like pray on my knees and write a gratitude list and read the daily reflections and the 24-hour day book in the morning. And I participated in class. I filled up 2 damn notebooks with notes in there because dude, I just knew that there's just something inside me that clicked. This is what it is. You better pay attention. You better do something about this because it's what they have is so much better than what you could have ever wished for. And I knew that. There was something in me that knew that these guys knew what the answer was, and I had no fucking clue. Excuse my language. So I get out of the colony, and they allowed me to come here to one of their houses. And I was really unsure about that. I grew up here, and for a long time I thought Southern Ponsmore County was my problem. I just needed to get away from here. And they allowed me to come here, and I came here on a Monday night, and it was the men's meeting, and that night I asked a man to be my sponsor, and he asked me the 2 questions: was I completely licked by alcohol this time, and was I willing to go to any lengths to stay sober? And I like how Ashley shares. He's like, I wanted to answer it now. I did. I could answer that shit right then, and he made me call him the next day, and I did. I thought I had to prove something to this guy. And I woke up early that morning. I hadn't slept in God knows how long. And I woke up early, went to the morning meeting, just so I could have something on my resume for that day to tell this man. Hey, I went to the morning meeting this morning, and yes to your questions. And he said it would be an honor to sponsor you. And we started from there. We read the book. We sat down once a week on Sundays after the morning meeting, and we read the book Alcoholics Anonymous. And, he asked me things like, have you done that? Have you acted like that? Have you felt like that? And we're reading this book, and this book's written some 80 or 76 years ago, something like that, right? And I'm like, yeah. It talked about me in that, but I've done that. And he'd ask me to explain it to him, how'd you act like that? What'd you do? And I'd tell him, I'd cite experiences out of my own life that directly correlated with what was going on in that book. And, that was I've been able to get down with you guys for a little while about identifying and stuff like that. But when I read it in that book and I can identify in the book, that was where I really identified as an alcoholic. That was where I knew that this is it, and I got to do this. That was when I made that really made that admission to myself, citing my experiences that really made the admission to my innermost self that I was alcoholic and I'm powerless over this deal. You know what I mean? It says in there, it says we have but 2 alternatives. One is to go on to the bitter end, blotting out the existence or our intolerable existence as best we could. The other to accept spiritual help. And that's what I do today on a daily basis. I've still got those 2 alternatives, right? And it doesn't seem like a choice for me. This is just me, right? That's how I see it. It doesn't seem like a choice. It seems like, I do this or I do that. And I wake up in the morning, I write the gratitude list, I get in touch with God, and I do that, or I go drink. That's how I treat this deal. I don't get a reprieve. It's do this or do that. You know what I mean? I don't have the luxury of just kind of half-assing this thing. I got to be in it all or nothing. You know what I mean? I can't, and you know what I can tell you from, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect by saying that. What I'm saying is I try the best I can, and what I can tell you from doing that, from doing the best that I can on a daily basis, it's like my life has gotten so much better today. I get all those feelings and emotions that I've always felt sober are not there. They're just, for the most part, they're gone. I get to come into these rooms and you know what I mean? I come in, I do the same thing every day, every night almost. I shake hands, smoke a cigarette with guys outside. Say hey to the new guy if there's one out there, and tell him welcome. I'm glad he's here, and talk to him if he wants to talk. And then I'll come in here and I shake hands with some of these guys in these rows right here, and then I come right down here and I shake hands with all the guys that are sitting right there, all the guys that are sitting at this table right here, and then I sit down right there almost every night. And I found my spot. You know what I mean? I found where I feel like I belong, and where I feel a part of. And I've never felt that before in my life to the magnitude that I feel it today. I've never felt the feeling of being able to connect with people like I do today. You know what I mean? There's a guy, and I don't think he's here tonight, but it's a dude that I don't even spend that much time with. He stays over the houses over there, and I don't even spend that much time with this dude, but we've had some conversations where it's every time I see him, he feels it and I feel it. I know he does. Me and this man have shared God. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it, but every time, he's not even a very close friend of mine. But some of the time that I've spent with him, after meetings, just talking about stuff, and the experiences that he's had compared to mine, and just there's something about that connection that you get with somebody when you get to experience God with them. And that's a direct result of this program. I come in here and what I did was I tried my best to take myself out of the management position. Somebody told me that. I was having a problem with my boss at work, and I was pissed as hell at her about something. This woman's voice made me mad. And, I'm calling my sponsor about it, and I tried preaching something to him. He said something, and I said, yeah, well, it says resentment's the number one offender in the book. And then he's like, I know it says that. And he says, but you're doing what you're supposed to be doing about it. You're praying about it, and you're talking about it, and you're trying to help somebody else. You know what I mean? You're following the formula. You're following the process. And I was talking to another guy about the same thing, and he said, listen, dude, we're not in management anymore. It is not our job to try and figure out how other people should act and what they should do, how they should fit into Brian's life, what they should do to make Brian feel good. You know what I mean? That's not my job today. I'm not in a position of management. I'm not in a position of telling anybody else what to do. I do that sometimes. But, I try not to. I try to live my life today on a basis of, where can I be of service? I try very hard to keep up keep a conscious relationship with God, on a daily basis throughout the day. And, I talk to him, constantly throughout the day, just saying little things like thank you, or just little prayers, thy will be done, not mine, stuff like that. And man, I can't explain, I can't articulate into words the feeling of relief and peace and comfort that I get from doing stuff like that, And when we were going through the book, and my sponsor walked me through the book exactly how it's outlined in there, and he said, we sat down the first time, and we started on the front cover where it says Alcoholics Anonymous. Then we flipped it, and there's that blank page. He said, that's what you know about being sober. And I said, okay, and we kept going, and we read all that stupid crap in the beginning. It's nice to know information, and that's what I do with my guys today. We read all that stuff in the very beginning, copyrights and ISBN numbers and stuff like that. We read all that mess. And, we kept on going, and he said, when we got past that and got into the nitty-gritty, he says, all right, we're going to do what this book tells us to do. This is a textbook. It's going to show us and tell us how to stay sober and how to get in a relationship with God. And, it says, he said, when it says pray, we pray. When it says write, we write. When it says take action, we're going to take action. And that's what we did, We got to that third step prayer, and we got down on our knees, and we said a third step prayer. Crazy, amazing experience. I've never had a man get down on his knees and say a prayer with me like that. And we did that. Then I wrote a fourth step, and I shared my fifth step with him. I got that relief from getting all that stuff out and humbling myself and doing that stuff. And I've got a chance to make amends in my life, and dude, the amends process has done some stuff for me that, like, I didn't think was possible. Like, my fear of other people and, like, being around other people like that, I think is directly correlated to, like, how hard I'm working on my amends. You know what I mean? What am I doing? How many am I making my amends? Am I willing to make the amends when they come into my life? You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. If I'm doing that kind of stuff, like, I get to live free. You know what I mean? Like, the amends process is something that, you know, looking at it from the steps on the wall, like, you hear people talk about, like, 4 and 5, like, a lot. Dude, 8 and 9 is extremely important in this program for me. You know, I got to be doing that stuff. And then, you know, I've just recently gotten into, you know, I didn't do it for a while, like the meditation part of step 11. And, you know, like actually sitting down and trying to listen for God. And I'm going to tell you, man, like, since I've started doing that, like, stuff like that, like, I wake up in the morning and I read my stuff and I sit down and I be quiet and I close my eyes and I try and listen for God. Like, there's really, like, a whole bunch of crap going on in there most of the time, but I try and quiet it out and let God come and speak through me, dude. Like, it's done something in my life. This whole program has done something in my life that was really, it seemed impossible for me to do, like, sober at least. You know what I mean? Alcohol and other things were a wonderful solution for me, you know, until they weren't anymore. And, you know, it's kind of like a roller coaster, you know. I'm clicking my way up this roller coaster. And, you know, this whole time I'm thinking I can get off whenever I want to, not really knowing that I can't get off. And finally, by the time I get to the top and things are starting to get scary and I'm about to fall over that edge, and I want to get off, like, I know that I can't get off. And that's where I was. And it took an act of God to get me off of that thing. And I get to experience, like, what alcohol and drugs did for me, like, sober. Like, that's really, like, what God has done for me. You know what I mean? That feeling of connectedness that I felt that I'd always been searching for. Like, that's what having a relationship with God has allowed me to do. It's allowed me to feel connected. It's allowed me to be with you. You know what I mean? It's allowed me to be me around you. You know? I don't have to hide behind anything anymore. You know, I don't have to be somebody that I don't like, that I don't want to be to, like, please you. I get to be me. And man, that's freedom for me. You know what I mean? That's being free. You know what I mean? Like, it's wonderful. And, like, I haven't had to drink or use in almost 2 years. That's great. And and that's amazing to me. It's kind of a miracle. But, like, even more so than that is, like, I get to be comfortable with this. You know what I mean? I get to be comfortable with all this crap that I feel like. You know what I mean? Sometimes, like, I get to be okay. And it's a release that I never thought I would be able to get without having some kind of artificial thing in my life. And I owe it to the guys that were here before me, the men and women who were here before me, you know, that took time out of their lives to talk to me. The guy that sponsors me, you know, the friends that I have, the people that came after me, man. Like, there's just so much that this program has brought into my life, and you know, I just pray every day that I can give just 1% of that back to somebody. You know what I mean? That's what I like to do. That's what brings me joy today. You know, sitting down and reading with a guy, with somebody that I sponsor, and seeing, like, that light click and, like, the guy that's been here for 2 or 3 months. You know what I mean? That right there is, like, the gift that I get from doing this deal. Not necessarily the stuff that happens to me, but, like, the stuff that happens to other people. I know that sounds fucking corny, but, like, really, you know what I mean? I get to go over to the halfway house on Sunday nights and do a big book study with those guys. And I was over there the other night, man, and I shared about this, but it's really important to me. They were over there just, like, bullshitting around and talking crap to one another with their inside jokes that they have, like the same relationships that I have with the guys that I live there with. But I got to sit on the outside and, like, watch it happen. Watch those relationships grow, like, with these guys that are, like, coming in now. I'm like, man, like, if they keep doing this, like, the stuff that's in store for them. And I'm, like, not even 2 years into this, and, like, man, I can't wait, dude. There's work to be done, and I can't wait to do it. You know, there's a lot of work to be done. Like, there's a whole lot of work that I got to do to work on the stuff that's really a whole lot of work for God. feel sorry for that dude sometimes, man. There's a lot of stuff that he's gonna have to do for me, but I know he'll do it, you know. And man, dude, it was a pleasure being up here tonight, and that's all I got. Thanks for letting me share.